You're watching Mugen TV RPG Haven. Experience a fantasy like no other.
Now that Final Fantasy VII Remake has been released for a little over a week, it is time that we begin to dive into some of the plot elements that were changed from the original, and that is the inclusion of Sephiroth being introduced so early into what is only the first part of a multi-game epic. But before I get into the main plot of this video, I decided to bring both KeoLancer and DxStrike into this discussion, or theory, behind the game's version of Sephiroth. So make sure to hit the thumbs up button, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date for gaming news and discussion videos. Also, check out KeoLancer and DxStrike's YouTube channel found in the link in the descriptions below. Now, Sephiroth is one of the most iconic antagonists in gaming history. If you haven't played a Final Fantasy game, you may have at least heard or seen an image of the long white-haired katana-wielding villain in gaming media. Sephiroth is not only one of the major pieces of the overall plot in the original, but also he ties into multiple characters' backstories, such as the main protagonist Cloud himself. We cannot forget Tifa and Zack, since they both witnessed the Nibelheim massacre by the hands of Sephiroth himself. So what made Sephiroth such a terrifying force? Well, in the original Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth wasn't introduced until after leaving Midgard. Players didn't know much about him. All players knew was his name and the supposed story that he was a war hero who died in an incident, which we later find out it was all covered up by Shinra. But as the players plan their escape from the Shinra building, Cloud and the others discover that the president, Shinra himself, is dead. But if you look closely, you would discover that the president has Sephiroth Masamune through his back. From that moment, Sephiroth as a character has been built up as a boogeyman that not only haunted Cloud, but also scares the player altogether. Now, it is such an effective approach for a villain such as Sephiroth, but as you see in the remake, the developers decided to go with a different approach by introducing him much early into the game. But why? Well, Yoshinori Kitase himself recently answered that question in an interview found in siliconera.com, and his answer is, I quote, "There are two main reasons. Firstly, the way we handled Sephiroth in the original Final Fantasy VII game was to hide him and hold him back. You may not know this, but I was inspired by the movie Jaws, which took a similar approach of teasing this powerful presence, but never fully show you the shark until later in the story. We wanted to build him up as this really big, powerful character in people's minds, but only referring to him indirectly. It created this feeling of fear and oppression, so when he makes his first appearance, it's a big deal. But for the remake, that doesn't work so well, partly because everybody knows who Sephiroth is." Quote last. We didn't think it would be as effective to have him held back until later on in the story. And secondly, Sephiroth is this massively overreaching presence that looms over the whole Final Fantasy VII saga. We wanted to make sure that this aspect of him was present in the first game in the project. That's why we introduced him much earlier in the story now. So, with that being said, does including Sephiroth so early into the story lessen the impact of Sephiroth as a villain in the remake? Well, in my opinion, I believe that it does, if not executed properly. I believe throwing him so early for new players makes things a bit confusing. After blowing up Reactor 1 in the beginning, Cloud and the others must rendezvous at a train station. Along the way, you witness citizens being affected by the incident, and suddenly Sephiroth is thrown into the mix. This doesn't give the players enough time to digest what's going on before introducing such an important character to the story. Not only that, the exploration of this sector is an entirely new experience for the original fans of the series. Throwing Sephiroth in so soon felt so forced to me. But then my brother DxStrike had brought something to my attention that made me rethink this approach much differently. Maybe Sephiroth's inclusion so early into the story may still have the same impact as the original, but not in the way as we expect.
Hey everybody, this is DxStrike, and as someone who has never played the original, stepping into the remake as a new player of Final Fantasy VII, this approach could actually be just as effective as the original game's approach to Sephiroth. In the first introduction to Sephiroth in the remake, he appears as this intrusive force towering over Cloud. To a new player, this is not only surprising but also a bit terrifying. It scared the crap out of me on my first playthrough. Katase created tension between the player and Sephiroth. Yes, new players with no prior knowledge of Sephiroth will be a bit confused by this scene for sure. But in the remake, Sephiroth is still the boogeyman that he was intended to be. Throughout the game, Cloud is haunted by him, while building suspense and intrigue by the player. But is there more to Sephiroth than what Katase is letting on? Well, I have a theory. I could possibly be wrong by the end of the day, but follow me on this one. Anybody could be wrong with their theories, because we don't know. But anyway, what if the entire time, no one other than Cloud has seen Sephiroth? What if Tifa, Barret, and Aerith are seeing something completely different during the time he has appeared before Cloud and the others in the same room? What if the last encounter with Sephiroth at the end of the game was something Cloud was experiencing in his head? What if to Tifa and the others, they are fighting something completely different, but through Cloud's eyes, he's fighting Sephiroth?
This is KeoLancer. I think my brother DxStrike might be onto something here. Just to think about it for a minute, when Cloud entered the apartment of the Stranger of Sector 7, he visioned Sephiroth approaching him and decided to take action. Right before Cloud was about to attack this vision of Sephiroth, Tifa interrupted, but strangely Tifa didn't see Sephiroth, but instead she sees Marco, the man wearing the number 49 tattoo on his shoulder. How about when President Shinra was killed? Pretty much Cloud was the only one that seen President Shinra was killed by Sephiroth. From the context of the scene, it seems as if Cloud has only witnessed Sephiroth impaling Barret with his blade, but after defeating Genova Dreamweaver, Sephiroth has disappeared. Like, where did he go? But instead, we see another cloaked man, but this time wearing a number 2 tattoo on his shoulder. So what does this even mean? What if Barret and the others are only seeing the cloaked men and Cloud's exclusively seeing Sephiroth the whole entire time?
Moving forward, this also leads to another scene that could back up KeoLancer's and DxStrike's points. When Cloud and the others finally corner Hojo in the lab, Sephiroth appears before them, or at least to only Cloud. I say this because Tifa knows who Sephiroth is. She was there when the massacre in Nibelheim happened at the hands of Sephiroth himself. So why isn't she surprised when he appeared before them? Why wasn't she in shock or terrified by his appearance when he stabbed Barret? Why didn't she address any of his appearances to Cloud? Well, it's quite possible that she never seen Sephiroth throughout the game since the very beginning. Now, Hojo says that this hypothesis is correct, which may lead us to believe that he knows something that may be revealed in the follow-up of this multi-game epic. This Sephiroth seemed much different than the Sephiroth from the original Final Fantasy VII on the PS1. It seems like his goals are pretty much different than the originals. Instead of becoming one with the planet by placing himself in the center as Meteor makes his impact, this Sephiroth seems to need Cloud to be alive. He needs Cloud's help. He needs the planet to be saved. He is pushing Cloud to defy fate in his favor, which leads us to believe that Sephiroth knows much more than he is letting on. The same can be said about Aerith as well, but we will save that for another video. But as of right now, we will have to wait and see what is in store for us in the follow-up of this game. As I said in my previous video, I love the game and that won't change, but I'm definitely worried about the game's story moving forward, and definitely doesn't really sit well with me at all. But I am curious to see how Katase will handle the overall story. And I hope the payoff was worth the risk of changing the core plot so drastically. And that pretty much wraps up this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this whole Sephiroth being introduced into the game so early compared to the original, where Katase had took time to build this presence of who Sephiroth is and planted how menacing and terrifying he is as a villain to the players in the original. Definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. And of course, if you haven't checked out my video talking about how it felt about the ending and how it worked me moving forward with the series, you can definitely click on that. It's pretty much should be at 1,000 views right now, and it's still growing because there's a lot of you guys who are just as worried as me, and there's a lot of you guys on the other spectrum that's all for the change of this. So you guys can definitely come together and we can have a discussion about it. So that wraps this video up. If you liked the video, as I said before, hit the thumbs up, comment, and also check out KeoLancer and DxStrike videos in the links in the description below. This is Mugen Lord.
This is KeoLancer, and we got more.
This is DxStrike, signing off.
Don't forget to hit the bell to be notified, and I'm signing off. See you Game Fiends later. Peace out. It looks like you reached the end of the video. Well, while you're at it, check out some of my other discussion videos by clicking on the annotations below And don't forget to follow me on other social media platforms to stay up to date with future content. Signing off.